Moving on to the agenda, so we're going to touch on like lending protocol basics, liquidity pools and what they are and what they're used for. Automated market makers, just a tiny introduction. Then we're going to switch to like what's special about Agoric, like in terms of vocabulary and how Agoric structures things. Then conceptual diagram of the implementation, and then we're actually going to dive deep into the code. And I strongly suggest you follow along, not only because it's like a hands-on experience, but also because we have bounties. And then, there's going to be a quick Q&A session. We'll leave probably like 15 minutes for that. On the general side, I'd like this to be less of a lecture, more like a interactive experience. So let's maybe start to understand like who is here together by raising hands if you ever wrote a smart contract before. 50-50. Okay. Do you have experience with lending protocols? Okay, that's like 20%. All right. And any experience with Agoric? No. Okay, newcomers. Nice. All right. Do you know that attendees who successfully complete this workshop, basically just follow along with your own equipment here, are entitled to receive a $200 prize? It never happened to me before, but I'm so glad that we can do it now. In order to qualify for that, you have to follow this link, like gatewayagoric.com, and please take a look. And you have to not only be registered for the workshop, but also do a few things that are outlined over there. Okay. Cool. All right. So, lending protocols. Let's understand what they are and how do those apply to DeFi. Let's start with like traditional finance, right? So lending is something you usually do in a bank if you want to get more money in less time. So like more money now, but you actually then pay back more over time, right? So the lenders or depositors, they provide money to some entity or a protocol. In our case, that would be a protocol. And borrowers take those from the entity or the protocol, but they also return interest rates. And if we look at the DeFi space, there's actually like two ways you can implement those. So you can do like a centralized way, like the one from BlockFi or Celsius, or you can do a decentralized way, like Avi or Compound. I mean, there are much more protocols than this. We are just like looking at those two for historical reasons, because they were one of the first, and still, very popular. Actually, the difference between like a BlockFi and a centralized bank institution is very narrow, because in both BlockFi and Celsius, you still have to deposit your money to some kind of entity that's being managed outside of your control. So therefore, it's exposed to the same risks in terms of regulations or hacking or everything else that can happen to a bank. While Avi and Compound and all the other DeFi protocols for lending, those are essentially smart contracts. So that expose them to different kind of risks with errors in codes and etc. But at least there is no human hand that helps to decide like what's going to happen with a particular investment. Is it clear so far? Any questions? Okay, cool. So now let's talk a bit like how those protocols actually work. It tends to be like majority of the DeFi protocols, DeFi lending protocols on the markets right now utilize something that's called over-collateralization. That's never easy for me to pronounce. That basically means that if I want to borrow DAI by providing Ether, that means that I can only borrow up to 75% of the Ether market value at any given moment. That means over-collateralized. And you might ask, like, what's the point then? If I have that many Ether, like, why do I borrow and not just sell it on the market, right? And that's a valid question. Do you have any idea why it still makes sense to?
Maybe you just want to keep the assets as well, in case they appreciate?
Yes.
So you just get liquidity in some other token, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's one.
If you sell 75% of entire supply of chain of coin, price will go like zero. Will go down.
I don't think I understand the question. So imagine you have one ETH, and you can, and the price of the ETH is like I don't know, $4,000. Used to be a long time ago. That means that you can borrow $3,000 against that that ETH, 3,000 DAI in this case.
You don't have to pay tax.
Yeah, tax avoidance or optimization. You know that's one of the reasons as well. And there's one more that is very important. It's actually there's a hint in the name of this protocol.
Oh.
Because
you can yield in multiple tokens by doing that, right?
yeah, you can create leverage because you can take 75% of this and then put it back, take 75 again and again and again and again. This is how you create leverage. This is also like with each iteration you expose yourself to liquidation, of course, because like the liquidation works in the way that if your collateral price is going down, then you are forced to close your positions, and therefore, like with each iteration of over collateralized loan, your exposure to being to liquidation is increasing. But that's how leverage works, right? Okay, then so that's the first factor that tells us how much can we borrow, and the second factor is how much supply we have on each side of the trading pair. So if there's not a lot of DAI in a particular lending pool, that means that it's probably going to be more expensive to borrow DAI. If there's more availability, then it's going to be less expensive. And this is how like it goes back and forth, like in a very simple thing. But then, if we go to the next slide, and we're going to talk about liquidity pools. Do we have any questions so far? No. Okay. So let's do like a calibration here. So most of the exchanges, like centralized crypto exchanges and most traditional exchanges, like London Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq, etc., they operate on a model called order book model. Can you explain me what it is?
It's like a matching system.
Yeah.
Set of buy and sells.
Yeah, so essentially, like there could be like those buyers, right, that want to buy something for $90, and those sellers that want to sell for 110. And the order book model only works if those two match, right? But what usually happens is if we don't have these guys, market makers, they don't match that often. Because if I'm not like not a market maker or like a high frequency trader or any of those special guys on the market, then I just create this order and go sleep or go to vacation, and they might not match for like weeks or days. And the thing that works for traditional and centralized exchanges is there are those special blue guys called market makers. Those guys are actually willing to sell and buy at whatever the price is in between those two. But in order to do this, what they do is they monitor market conditions and then create order books entries for a short period of time and then withdraw them if they did not work, and then try to go closer to this side or go closer to that side. But the thing is, there is a high frequency of order book entries, and it works. So it works like for almost a century now. So why wouldn't we just use the same thing on decentralized crypto exchange? Any ideas?
Expensive.
Yeah. Why?
You have to rent them all the chain.
Yeah. So these market makers, they have to frequently modify the order book. And each interaction with a smart contract is going to cost you gas fees. I mean, there are some exceptions, like there's Serum on Solana now that implements like a decentralized order book based exchange fully on chain, but that's like probably the only known example so far. Most of other lending protocols, they use something called automated market maker, and it basically means that for each trading pair, like Ethereum and DAI, you have to create a pool. So you have to somehow supply both DAI and ETH to the same smart contract, where it will be locked for a time. Instead, you will get something called LP tokens. And this is where all the incentive starts. And, this is where the lending protocols can try to win you over other protocols by giving you more incentives, so by holding those LP tokens. But essentially what they are after is to get liquidity in the pool, because unless there's liquidity in the pool, you cannot actually trade or lend or whatever else. The algorithms for the the price adjustments in those pools, or the algorithms for for how long this stake is locked in the pool, etc., etc. Those will vary from protocol to protocol. This is like the most basic formula introduced in Compound or even Bancor before them, and it still holds true. But if you want to make a research about something more modern, I suggest you look at Uniswap version 3. That's like one of the, but it's outside of this lecture, because we're going to be building like a very simple model. What we've built here is not to innovate on the DeFi space as a whole, but rather to get development experience with Agoric, and how can it be used for DeFi protocols, and also build one of those, DeFi Lego blocks that you guys or somebody else in the dev community can take it as is, integrate something on the outside, or take it as is, modify, and launch a more production-ready system, I would say. Yeah. Next thing that I would like to touch briefly before we actually go to the Agoric implementation is that in order for the lending protocol to be widely used by general public, you have to make sure that the price is more or less stable. So how expensive it is to take liquidity from the pool, or how expensive it is to trade one coin to another in a particular exchange. When you will be learning about the current implementation, please bear in mind that it's not very good in terms of the slippage, because it's it's a bit of naive implementation just for demonstration purposes. Okay. Yeah, and the only thing that applies there is larger pools can accommodate bigger trades without moving the price too much. But there are much, in production systems now, there are much more sophisticated algorithms in place. So don't be surprised if you will see simple math instead of proper math, because that's not the point of this presentation. Okay. So now, in order to be able to follow along, please go to this URL. There's going to be a GitHub repo, and then switch to branch called Feature Workshop. You will have, can you open the link? You will have a series of steps, and while we are changing mics, and I'm going to give the stage to Nuno, and he will pick it up from here.
There are, as Alex said, there are some instructions here for you to follow. Basically, well, the most annoying part is that we have to use a different version of the Agoric SDK, because the last one, well, it introduced some changes that our code still doesn't comply. Yeah, so that will be the highest pain, but afterwards you just need to download, to clone the repo, and we are good to go. You can do that while I'll talk. I'll just present some basic Agoric concepts that you will probably hear a lot, especially when we interact with the code. Okay, so first, well, here we always hear about and talk about digital assets, right? That's most of what we're here for. How is a digital asset represented in Agoric? So there are three main entities that you should always be aware of, which is the issuer, the brand, and the mint. So the issuer is kind of the authority of the digital asset. So it's basically the one who recognizes that asset as who it is. The brand, well, it identifies the asset. You always need a brand to identify the asset. Which token are you messing with? And of course, then the mint. Well, its name, it's very widely known, and it mints new payments. It doesn't mint the actual digital asset; it mints payments. Then we have another important concept here, which is the amount. And don't ever think of the amount as the actual thing that's moved. It's just a representation. So an amount basically answers the questions how much and what kind. So what kind is the brand, of course. And then there's this thing, so the purses. In Agoric's wallet, you will have multiple purses, as you will be able to see. And a purse can only be of one brand, so you can have a purse with multiple brands, but you can have multiple purses of the same brand if you wish so. And of course, in the purses, you deposit the payments. The withdraws actually are withdraws of amounts and not payments, right? So you take a payment and you deposit it into the purse, sorry. But if you want to take a certain amount, you use this entity, not the payment itself. Okay, two more important concepts that you might have heard about. Well, there's run there, but Dean probably won't like it because now it's center, but well, it is what it is. But let's first start with Zoe, the escrowing service. You've probably already heard about it too, and it's just basically it's the smart contracts framework of Agoric. So it runs code on chain, it mints digital assets, but the most important part and what's the real game changer here is that it credibly trades assets. And this is a quote that I took off Agoric's webpage, which is even a buggy contract can't cause users to lose their assets. And I think this is one of the things that Agoric actually brings of that has a high value, because we all have heard of users losing millions and millions. This won't happen here. You either get what you want or you get what you gave. That's it. Then there's the Inter protocol, which basically it's just a set of on-chain smart contracts, which includes an automated market maker, what Alex was talking about earlier, and of course, which it's over this that we will build, or that we will show how we built our lending pool. It also allows for collateral trading, which we also discussed. So if you want to give a collateral as a well, if you have to give a collateral to borrow some tokens. And the last important bit is the stability fees, because, well, we want it to be soft back to the dollar, so as most approximate as possible. And so there are some stability fees that are paid in order to do that for the ones who use this. Go ahead. Okay. Now, this is a basic workflow in Agoric, and you will also see this in a minute. So it all starts with this, an invitation, right? You need to get an invitation in order to make an offer to someone. You can either get the invitation if the creator of the contract provides you with one, or you can get an invitation if the public facet of the contract exposes you one. It's basically like that. When you have that invitation, that leads to an offer. So, okay, I have the invitation, I want to make an offer. And that offer is always comprised by the invitation itself, because you have to match it, so that Zoe knows that that offer has in fact a valid invitation. You have the proposal, so what you want and what you will give, and the payment, which is essentially the payment of what you want to give, right? So here the proposal is basically you describe, I want this, and I will give you that. And the payment is actually the give clause, so the tokens itself.
Shall we stop here?
Yeah. If you have any questions, please.
Is the payment for both? It's like for the gift and for the one?
Yeah, you always have to build a payment. Yeah, and they trade. So Zoe is always in the middle, right? So you give your payment, you provide your offer to Zoe, and Zoe will only release your payment, your offer, if the other has also given its payment. That's how it ensures that you don't get without anything,
Yeah.
you know. So it's either it's gonna also give his payment and you will get it, or you get back what you gave to it.
It also helps a lot, like speaking on the dev experience, because that means that you could be a novice developer and you're kind of protected by the framework, which doesn't happen on EVM, because if you write code on Solidity, you can do whatever. And here you're protected, and not only you protected from your errors, but also your users are protected from errors. Because whatever happens, they will either get from Zoe what they asked for, or they will get money back. There's no other options of the outcome.
Any more questions before we go forward?
Here, the arrow isn't the other way from process to payments.
Sorry.
The bottom arrow, shouldn't it be the other way around? You deposit.
Yeah, maybe you deposit payments to persons. Yeah, you're right.
Nice catch.
Nice catch. Yeah.
And then in terms of developer experience, like I was just in the other workshop.
Mhm.
So when you make a proposal, you put the give and you say like, you put the amount, right?
Mhm.
And then you also include that in the offer. Why not just take the one in the offer as the give instead of declaring it twice?
So I'm not sure I follow. You create the proposal, right?
Yep.
And you insert in the offer, and
And then you also like have a redeclaration of it.
the amount. Maybe it's the last bit, the payment. Yeah. Well, that's internal to the SDK actually. So you always have to provide a proposal and a payment. If it can be kind of condensed, as you were saying, so you can just provide the blank offer and he gets the amounts from the proposal. Yeah, maybe it's possible. I honestly can't answer you that, but yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is like a sketch of our implementation, and remember, this is done over what we already have from Agoric, so the automated market maker and the vaults. As you must have seen, if either you participated in the first workshop, you typically always have the creator facet and the public facet, right? So the creator facet is the object that's available only to the person to the user that created the contract, while the public facet, as the name tells you, is basically methods that anyone can call. Here above, what we added for the created is just adding pool types. And what I mean by adding pool types is adding pools for new brands. So, I don't know, let's call tokens Van, Pan, San. So if you want to have a pool of Van, the creator has to have a pool for you to be able to deposit money or borrow money from, right? And so that's basically what the creator of a contract can do. In the public, between a lot of methods like hasPool, this is just for you to check if there is a pool with a brand that you want to either deposit or borrow money from. The keyword is the same method almost, but it's stored in Zoe, so it's a bit different. This is a brand, and so the brands associated with the pools, and this is always the brand too, but it's stored in Zoe. Then, of course, the getPool method, as the name indicates, it just returns you a pool manager, which is an object that you can interact with and check the exchange rates, the current borrowing rate. You can make a deposit invitation, for example. And those two final methods, which are mainly the two big ones right now, which is make deposit invitation and make borrow invitation. As the name suggests, this allows you to call the contract and request an invitation to make a deposit on a pool, and the other one allows you to call the contract to give you an invitation to borrow money, basically, so that then you can get the invitation, create your proposal, your payment, and actually do the offer. Is there any question on this slide before we go forward? Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is this pool manager that's returned here. So in this part, you never interact with Vault, so the automated market maker from Agoric. But our pool manager inside uses it, so it leverages what Agoric has already built, of course. Okay. Yeah.
This slide actually depicts what's already there as a part of Agoric, or what we are up to build.
No, this is what's built. What's built? So what's built by us? So yeah, on top of Agoric. Yeah. What's on Agoric is essentially you have a pool manager, which is not here. You can get it by calling the get pool method. If you have a pool manager, then the pool manager in itself inside uses stuff built by Agoric, so vaults and all that.
What we use from Agoric is essentially here.
Yeah.
Zoe and
That one.
what's the new name for it?
Inter. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you can go ahead. Okay, so we're onto the code part and interaction. Let's. Okay, have you all been able to the people who are going to follow? Have you all been able to install the correct version? Yes, no problems whatsoever. Hmm.
On my book, basically, there are Python 3 and speed means 1 to 5 Python. So I need to rename Python 3 to Python.
Which script?
Agoric install and some stuff.
Really?
So it's a feature workshop branch.
Mm-hmm.
The branch is feature workshop.
Yeah, feature/workshop.
Uh,
Yeah, there's some instructions there because this code currently, well, a week ago we noticed that the new version of Agoric, well, it just makes our code messy because there were some packages that were withdrawn from the governance, and yeah, so we have to go into a older version in order to be able to follow this through. But I, yeah. So this is what I was talking about. Can you see well? Yeah. So does anyone already had the Agoric SDK installed? Yeah. Yeah.
I did install but with the beta branch.
You didn't install with the beta branch, right? Yeah. So that's why in order to follow this, we will need to change the version up. So it's basically a remove and reinstall.
Okay.
But you have instructions here. You can follow them, and of course, if afterwards, and you should return to the beta branch, you just need to do basically the opposite. Okay. Okay. So.
Yeah, let's give a few minutes so
Yeah.
everybody can catch up. And meantime, if you have any questions.
Yeah, please.
So, what is recommended YAM version? Because it is failing for me at version
16.13. Should work. I think Agoric only requires no higher than 14 point something.
What version should we get? Is it 15?
Hmm?
What version of Agoric?
Well, they're on 0.15, I think now. If I'm not mistaken, we need it's 0.14.1. We actually in the instructions you can check out to a commit on Git on Agoric SDK and just reinstall. Everything's there. For Yarn is well, I don't know. Can you turn your laptop afterwards? So it's Node that's failing. Yeah, if you want, I can try to have a check. Yeah. Excuse me.
repository, correct?
Mhm.
SDK. Then I check out to the commit. And then when I run yarn install, then it fails with this error. Not just I'm
Yeah.
not a good JavaScript developer, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
this is
It's a clean clone. It's clean clone.
mhm.
And,
Okay, that sounds normal. It has under the yarn CLI. Yeah, it's 16.13. It should be working because Agoric I think only requires 14 up. So I don't even know if it's a no-related error. Do you have Git there?
yes.
Git status, just to see something. Okay, the head is detached. What originated the error was?
I checked this.
Mhm.
And it is
Yarn install.
67 EF67.
Okay.
So who's ready?
Oh, is it?
Who's ready?
Sorry, one more question. I don't know if it was asked, but are there any plans for TypeScript bindings? Type bindings?
Agoric? Not that I know of. For now, yeah.
It's the same problem.
Yeah, that's not even a no problem. I don't think it's a compilation of some C++ libraries that these are giving warnings and then it's running and
Could it be problem with new Aperture with M1? Because it's architecture. Could it be
it's the M1.
Yes, it's the M1.
Yeah. I think there were some instructions on Agoric. Can you check Agoric's website, please? The getting started section.
When you have M1, you don't need $200. So
Agoric docs or
Yeah, try Agoric getting started. I think it's there that I saw it. It has some instructions on that part. Installing the Agoric SDK. Yeah, that's the one. Can you go a bit further? Shell equivalent. Yeah, package one. Agoric CLI. Nope, it's not the one. I have an idea. Yeah. I have an idea of seeing that somewhere. Just can't remember where. GitHub Agoric SDK. I think so. Yeah, it's Agoric SDK. Can you just look for Agoric or something? It's looking in this repository. Just enter again, and yeah, it's all GitHub. Yeah, exactly. Agoric. Yeah. Can you scroll a bit further down below? Building on Apple Silicon and newer architectures. You have to export this, then Xcode select install, and see if that and afterwards you do the normal yarn install and all.
Okay.
I hope that works.
Okay.
'Cause otherwise I'm out of ideas. No worries. Excuse me. Thank you. Yep. Okay, so has anyone been able to install the version, the correct version? Yeah. Okay. Well, we could have. So before, before looking at the actual code, let's just put the network starting because it takes a bit of time. So we might as well. So you probably already did this in the first workshop, but you just have to go into the that pool landing protocol. So the GitHub repo that you just cloned, and you do agoric start -- reset, just to be a clean run. Okay, so in the same directory of the GitHub repo, you can see the into contract, and then do agoric deploy JS. Okay, see the command. If you have any doubts or so, or you didn't see the command, please let me know. Okay, so in addition to that, let's do in another terminal agoric open -- REPL, which is to open the interpreter alongside the wallet, the agoric's wallet. Oh, I'm not sharing the screen with Anil. My bad. Can you see now, Anil? Nice. Okay, so after you do agoric open -- REPL, it should give you this. And basically now it's deploying the smart contract. And okay, this one, the other one? Yeah. Okay. Ready? Okay, so while this is deploying, let's check a bit of the code. Of course, we're not going to go through everything, otherwise we would need a lot more than 1 hour. But we'll go through the main aspects of this protocol. So the landing pool, which is the primary contract, you can see, right? Is it too small for the others in the back? A bit more? Is it good? No worries. Okay, so it all starts in the start function, right? I think you probably have already heard about that. And without getting into too much detail, what we do here is we actually keep track, as you can see, of pool types and pool parameter managers. These pool parameter managers are really, really powerful objects because they allow you to actually change the rates that pool is applying. So they're not exposed. And then we're going to go here into two main methods, which you should know about because they are very important for the landing pool protocol. So the add pool type, what does it do? first, in Zoe, it saves an issuer. So this is the underlying issuer is essentially what the brand of the token. So it's the issuer of the brand of the token that you want to create a pool for, right? And the underlying keyword is what I was talking about earlier, that has keyword method. So basically, it will check in Zoe. So this is what it's doing. It's saving in Zoe, basically telling it, hey, this is the issuer. This is the keyword that you should watch out for this issuer. Then we basically make a mint for the protocol tokens. So remember when Alex a few moments ago told you about LP tokens? This is kind of our representation, because it's so we basically receive the underlying keyword and we just add an AG before, which is agoric. So yeah, and you will probably come across this a few times, which is asset kind. By telling it it's an asset kind, we're essentially telling it it's a fungible token, and that's it. So you can use set, for example, to make it an NFT. Okay, so these two last lines, we essentially get the brand, right? So we get the issuer record from the protocol mint and the underlying brand. Sorry. So this here is the brand for the protocol tokens, and this here is the brand for the token that we wish to deposit in the pool. Of course, if you see some to-dos, it's normal, because we still haven't done the liquidation process, so it's still ongoing. So what we do afterwards is, of course, when you're adding a pool type, you have to check if that brand already exists in the pools you have, because you don't want that the same brand is in different pools. You want one pool with that brand, and that's it. And here is essentially we calculate the initial exchange rate, which will be always 0.02, because this is 200, sorry, and the basis points are always 10,000. So the initial exchange rate is 0.02. Yeah, okay, so then we essentially initialize that pool parameter manager, sorry, and we give it the rates, and this is the kind of object that we do not expose, because it's, well, you can change the rates of the pool with it. So okay, and finally we return a pool manager, which is what we call the object that is able to actually interact directly with the pool and make deposit invitations and such. Okay, so any questions that you might have, or something that you found weird here? Nope. Okay, so let's check here. One of the other important functions. We will interact with this shortly using the REPL. This borrow invitation, so it receives a borrower seat, right? This is, you've heard of seats, so kind of like a seat at the table, right? So it receives the borrower seat, so, and then it essentially tells you that it wants proposals to have this format, in exactly this format, okay? We also use offer arguments here, so you can pass additional arguments in the offer, and we kind of use that to get the collateral underlying brand, so the brand of the collateral, which you can see here. And of course, we also get the exchange rate for that collateral, because we will need it. After getting the proposal, we essentially check that we, in fact, have a pool for that collateral type. And yeah, afterwards, we return the make borrow kit, which will return the invitation. So this is the method you call, which is exposed via the public facet, and that you can call to, well, request a borrow, right? Make an offer for a borrow. And finally, let's check here the pool manager for the make deposit invitation, which is also a method that we will interact with in a few minutes. So it's doing basically the same thing, right? Asserting a proposal shape, because you want to be specific on what you want. Then it's getting the actual amount of funds of the pool that he wants, and the amount of protocol tokens that he's going to get, basically. And that you can get this amount actually by using this function, which is the get protocol amount out. So you give it an amount of a brand, and he will tell you how much protocol tokens you will receive in turn, or you should receive in turn. Okay, so after you've checked everything's all right, you have to mint the gains, so mint the protocol tokens so you can give back to the person that will deposit the money. You add it to the total protocol supply because you now have additional tokens. And this is a very important part, which is first if you focus on this, it will tell you that it's decrementing the amount of tokens, so the protocol asset seed has less tokens, and the fund holder seed, so the person who will deposit the tokens will have additional protocol tokens, right? Because he's going to do an exchange. And this is just the opposite. But here, nothing actually happens. So it's just like a description. So you're basically telling you will have to decrement here and increment here, and only when you reallocate does it actually do something, because it has to be Zoe doing it, so that you can ensure that everyone gets what they want or what they gave, right? Okay, so this should be ready. Yep, it is. Can you all see something like this in the second window? In the window you did the deploy. Can you see this? Instance IDs?
The deploy command.
Yeah, the deploy command. Okay, cool, because we're going to need these IDs. We are going to be acting as the API, right? We don't have an UI yet, so we are going to be interacting with the REPL and acting as if we were the API.
I'm sorry, can you use your chat because mine? I have
Yeah.
15%.
Yeah, I think so.
I see you have
Yeah, it's
That's only fair.
yeah, it's only fair.
So what was the deploy command? I understand.
So in the second window, you should do agoric deploy, and then you're in the contract directory. Yeah, go into the contract directory and do agoric deploy space deploy / deploy.js. Is it running?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, 4:30. I'll give it 2 minutes to see. Anyone else got to this part? Yes?
There's actually several offers in the wallet already showing up.
Yeah. Have you accepted them already?
Not yet, just-
Cool, don't. For now. Because I'm going to explain why they are there. Yeah. Should have enough, I think. Still running, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's going to take like 3-4 minutes. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, half an hour is enough, so yeah. Yeah, okay. So if you have the wallet UI open, you will see 4 offers right here. Basically, these two we do it in a deploy script just to add liquidity to the pool. So we create 2 pools, actually 3, but we add liquidity to it so that we can interact with it, right? Because we don't have access to the creator facet, right? So the facet that allows us to create a new pool. So we do it on a deploy script. This here, we're gonna decline it afterwards because we're gonna do it manually. So we're going to do a deposit with the commands there instead of just accepting this one, because it will show you how it's used. So yeah, for anyone who got here, you can accept these first two. you can decline the one that says it gives an underlying of 1 van and wants a protocol of 5 and a lot of zeros, AG van. Okay. And you can accept the other one, the last one. Okay. Okay. So, has anyone ever used the REPL? Yeah?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. So you know that you have the home object, you have Zoe, the wallet, and history, you have the history. So yeah, the first thing I usually do is this, because then you don't have to do history, you can just put the H. So you're also going to need Zoe, so you can already start doing that. The wallet. Can you see well? I didn't ask. Yeah. Okay, so the wallet and the board. The board is where we can get the instances and the installations that appeared in the deploy script. Okay. Okay, so let's start. We want to do that offer that we saw earlier. So we want to deposit 1 van, right, and give whatever the underlying is, and receive the protocol tokens. So what we need to do is to collect these IDs, of course. And when you want to get the, you need to get the brand, right? So we have to go to the van issuer. This is the ID. Have you seen this notation, the E, eventual sign, okay? Yeah. So it's basically when we're calling a remote object that we need to do it. Okay, so we do eboard.getValue and we copy the ID, and it's going to return you the van issuer, right? So if you, afterwards, you can see here that it says history 4, so we go to H4 and we get the brand. Okay, so H5 is now our brand. Let's name it. Van brand is H5. Okay, so now we have the van brand for the deposit. What we can do is to get the lending pool instance and then get the public facet to make just get us an invitation, right? So let's do that. Let's check here on our IDs. We have a lot of them. So lending pool instance. Okay, this is what we want. We want to communicate with it. So, sorry. So let's get this value. Okay, we have an instance handle. And now we need to get the public facet, right? So the way how you get the public facet is through Zoe. So Zoe is the one that knows what's your public facet. So you do this. Essentially do e.zoe.getValue. Sorry, not getValue. Get public facet. And you pass it along the instance that you just received. So in this case, it would be H7, right? This should return us the lending pool public facet, exactly. And you can even interact and see what kind of methods it has. So let's do H8. In order to see the methods it has, you can literally put anything here. So look like it will tell you what it has, basically. So yeah, it has get amount keyword record, get pool, and make bar invitation, all that sort of stuff. So we can see here the get pool method. This is what we want because we want to interact with the pool and to make a deposit, right? So let's do that then. So our van pool manager, right, will be equal, our van pool manager will be equal to the lending, the public facet, so it's H8. Not get pool, and in the .getPull method, we pass it the van brand. Okay, we have a vault manager. Nice. Okay, so what we need to do now is essentially build our proposal. That's what's missing, right? And the offer here that we will do later on will seem a little bit weirder than it is, because we need to pass an additional configuration due to how we installed it, but we'll get there. So let's start building a proposal. So in our proposal, we have a want and a give, right? So let's start with a want. So our want keyword record is, you have to look to your purses in the left, right? So you will, you will do you want an AG van purse, so protocol tokens, right? And remember the format of what we had here. If you remember, we saw that for the deposit, you had to do protocol. Okay. And then you need to provide it the purse pad name. So this is essentially this here. Okay, so it's the purse's name. And afterwards, we need to provide it the value. So we have pre-calculated the values because this has decimal units that are stored inside, and they're a bit complex. So we can put it right here. Okay. Yep, that works. Now let's build our give keyword record. Not protocol. If you want to give, you want the underlying, right? What's the purse pad name? So we want AG vans, and we will give it vans, which are the actual tokens. If you notice, if you notice right here, these two values, I missed something here. Yep, I did. Okay. If you notice something here is that these two values, the only difference is the multiplication by 50, right? Which is essentially the same as dividing by 0.02. Yeah, so it's the initial exchange rate that we talked about earlier. Okay, so we have a want and a give. We can build our proposal template. Oh. What we want is the proposal want keyword record, and we'll give the proposal give keyword record. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Command for give debugger board 00126. So I have an error that board does not have ID string. I need to initialize this board of software.
So this board, did you do this? Board equals home.board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I have different version also.
Did you put E, word in E, and then dot get value?
Yeah.
What's the error again?
Huh?
What's the error again that you're having?
Board does not have ID and a string.
What was the ID that you used?
Board 001. Is it?
Maybe we
It-
should define it.
Yeah, maybe it's different. Did you check here in the deploy in your terminal? Yeah, where you did agoric deploy. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Should be after the stuff they said?
Yeah, this is the deploy window. So we did start -- reset here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, and here we did agoric deploy / deploy.js. Yeah, and this is where you'll have all the IDs. Do you have it here, the van issuer board ID?
I think I found the problem. Deploy script, no, that doesn't work correct.
Are you in the contract folder?
Yeah.
Try to see.
Yes, see the intercontract. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Contract.
Okay, yeah,
from there.
Okay, yeah.
Not right.
Thanks.
Okay. I don't think we'll have enough time for borrowing. It's almost. Yeah. Hmm? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have here the proposal template, and now what we're going to do is essentially build our offer, right? So let's call it offer config, whatever. Here, the offer, sorry, the offer always has an ID, which is unique, but of course, since we are the API, you can pass whatever you want, as long as it is unique, indeed. Then we also will need two values from the deploy script, since we are handling this on behalf of the API. We'll need the installation handle word ID, which is this one, landing pool install word ID. And we need the instance handle word ID. I have a capital A here, where I shouldn't have. This instance handle is this one, so landing pool instance port ID. Okay. That's the okay, so now we just pass along our proposal template. Okay. That's it. Good. All right. So we now have configured our offer. There's something still missing, right, in order to do an offer, because we need something from our smart contract in order to do it, right? The invitation. We have no invitation yet, so we can't do anything without it. So if we don't have it, we need to get it. And remember that the smart contract's public facet actually exposes a method to the pool manager, to make the deposit invitation. So we just need to call it. And of course, since the only thing you want is to assign the invitation to the offer, you can just attach a then. You're familiar with the syntax, right? So yeah. Okay, what did I do wrong? Okay.
No, the C of the offer config should be capital.
Yeah. Thanks, Anil. Yeah, I can just push up this. Okay, so we have a Zoe invitation payment. Okay, so now basically what we need to do is to get the wallet bridge, which is essentially the stuff that communicates with this wallet that you have here on the left in the purses, right? So we declared it up above, so it's the wallet. So let's just get our wallet bridge. Okay, we have a pre-approved bridge. And finally, let's add our offer. Okay, here it is. So it's giving an underlying one van and wants protocol, very big number AG vans. Okay, and you can see that we have 5 vans currently, so we approve. Okay, accepted. So I now have large number of AG vans and one less van token. Yeah. There are an additional couple of things that you can do with a pool manager. For example, if you want to know the current exchange rate, so you can just do this. Right, and you'll get it. This is a ratio. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. The Nogoric, since you're using 2 different brands, you need to use a ratio as the denominator and the numerator. Okay, so you can't just use a simple division. But yeah, that's the exchange rate you can see is 200 over 10,000, which is the 0.02 that we talked about earlier. And yeah, if you want to check any additional methods that you could do here, just do .help. And you have everything here: interest rate, protocol man out, and all that stuff. Okay, so we can now proceed to maybe to borrowing. Let's try to borrow some money. First, we need to get some stuff. This is because we are dealing with more tokens, so we already have this, I believe, up above, but we can get have to get the van issuer. So please copy van issuer board ID. Anyone having troubles following? Any question? No? Okay.
No, I think we have the van issuer. Did you mean pen issuer?
Yeah, we have it. Not mute, no. Yeah, we have it. I put it again. It should be up here, yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's assign it. We have the van issuer, now we need I think we already have the van brand. Yeah, we do. Okay, so let's get the pen issuer. This one. Okay. And now let's get the brand of the pen issuer. Okay. So, pen brand is H27. Okay. Okay, so we still need to fetch the AG van. So let's do e.worth, get value again. Fetch the issuer, and now let's fetch the brand, which is what we actually care about. Okay, so this is the AG van brand. Okay. Okay, so let's get our purse now. So our AG van purse, where we have all this cash. You have to check, yours may be different. My name is simple, it's just AG van purse, really. probably already have the lending pool public facet around here. Yeah, here it is, H8. So if you could please look up where you have the lending pool public facet in the history so that we don't need to create it again. Okay. You can look up where this says and just assign it to, we don't need to create it again since we already have it. Okay. So let's start building the keyword records. For the deposit, we saw that it needed a protocol, right, and the underlying amount. For this, for the borrow, we saw that it was a collateral and a debt. So let's start building that. Okay. This is a slightly different way of building a keyword record. Is essentially use a function, you give it the parameters you want, and it returns you the keyword record. So it's easier than getting it done, and I'll show you right now. Okay, so the first one, we want the collateral, right? And the collateral is E.g. Van Brand. And we need an amount to provide it to him. Okay, we have that. Let's build now the keyword record for the debt. And our debt will be in PAN. Okay, that's the token we're going to use. Okay, so let's build our borrow proposal. So what we want is the debt, and what we will give is the protocol tokens.
This would probably be one of the good timings to take a screenshots, because you might need them to claim the rewards. Because that's one of the milestones.
Yeah.
Not the final though.
Yeah.
One of.
So if you actually go to the end, just take a screenshot. That will prove you when you got there. Okay, so now we have a borrow proposal. And we need to prepare a payment, right? That's the next step. Okay, sorry. It's 32. Okay, so this H32, as you can see here, it's our purse, our AG Van purse. So we need to withdraw a certain amount of protocol tokens so that we can give to the borrow offer. Okay. Okay, and the amount is what we have in give thought collateral. Right, so this is the collateral we want to give, which is AG Vans, and we are providing it the amount so that he can withdraw from the purse and prepare the payment. here we have an AGVAN payment. And now let's make an offer. Here we're going to make the offer directly to Zoe, which is not very typical, but in this case, since we can't pass offer arguments another way, we really need to use this for now. This is solved in the next versions, just to be sure. Okay, so let's make an offer. What do we need? The first thing is, of course, an invitation, right? So let's start by doing that. We can use the lending pool public facet for that. We know that there's a method there to make borrow invitation. Okay. Then what we need to provide to is, so this will close, yeah, is the borrow proposal, right? So what we are proposing to give and to want. Okay.
Yeah, the payment needs to be an object too.
Yeah.
So we need to read the picture basis.
Yeah, I'm missing this. Okay, so the collateral is the payment that we created before, so it's here, page 37. And finally, the offer arguments we were talking about, which is passing it the underlying brand of the collateral. So which is Van brand.
It's Van brand.
Yep. Okay, so after we do this, we get a user seat, right? We get our seat at the table again. And afterwards, when we get that seat, we can do get offer result, which is the thing that will tell us how this went. So let's do that. Okay. So we have a vault notifier, an asset notifier for in case things change. And let's also get our payout. Okay. So in the user seat. Oh, sorry. Get payout. The payout we want to get is that because that's what we said we wanted. Okay, and it's a PAN payment. Since we have the PAN issuer, we can check what's the amount of this payment, right? So let's do that. Nope. Did something wrong here. Let me see if PAN issuer is declared.
We don't have the PAN issuer.
Yeah, we don't. Nice catch. So we can get it from here. PAN issuer board ID. And e.board get value. Okay, so the PAN issuer is H43. And now we can actually do that. Get amount of the payment. And here it is. It's what we inserted above. Okay, so we finally have that. Now, the only thing that's left for us to do is to get the PAN purse and actually deposit this payment that we have of PAN in our purse, right? So let's do that. Let's first go to the wallet and get the purse, which is this one, right? It's the PAN purse that we want. Okay, there it goes. Okay, so we're just about finishing. This is these last commands. So let's see if this actually made something. So let's use the lending pool public facet to get the pool of PAN, right? And it won't let me do this. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now we can, for example, in this fault manager, check the total debt. Here it is. There's a total debt of the value that we saw. And we can, for example, show you if we use
the borrowing rates and the initial exchange rates.
Yeah.
Because we expect them to go up since there is a borrowing from the pool.
Okay, so this is the H51. Yep, there it is. You can see that the borrowing rate has risen, right? So, well, risen. The numerator has changed. Yeah.
And that's another good timing for a screenshot.
Yeah. If you got there. Any question for anyone who has been following thus far, or
Is slippage possible here?
in our learning?
It is, yes.
And how do you handle it? Or it's not handled in this way?
It's not, as I said in the beginning, so this is not like a production quality yet,
Mhm.
so slippage is quite possible, yeah. And also liquidation is like very, down to the point that can actually like ruin the whole pool. Try to liquidate. Yeah, so that's the end of the introduction, right? So maybe a little bit of recap with the diagram of the implementation, what we just did, and then questions.
Okay, so here you have. Sorry about that. You probably remember a lot of the things we used here, right? So the public facet, you saw it. The adding a pool type, you didn't see it. We talked about it since it's in the deploy script. We couldn't use it because when it's deployed, the way Agoric handles that is that you can only the script that actually deployed the contract has access to the creator facet, right? So in the REPL, we would have to start an instance all over again. We thought it best to just place that into the deploy script. And then we have the public facet, which you remember, although this is not entirely true for now, because the make deposit invitation, if you remember correctly, we had to do it through the pool manager, but we are thinking of extracting that to the public facet too, because it makes sense. Yeah, and the get pool method, of course, that you saw multiple times with to get the PAN pool, the VAN pool, and whatnot. Yeah, that's it. And if you have any questions that you saw, even if it's code or something, please. And we will still be around. So
the creator facet methods are accessible only by the deploy script.
By who deploys it? Yeah, so you have to have access to the object to actually call the methods there. So yeah, if you deploy it, you have access. If you don't, you don't.
So it gives me one of the board IDs as well, or how would I reference that if I am the guy who deploys it?
So if you deploy it, your API, right, it will get the creator facet object, so you can use it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use it. At this point, I know it's harder to understand because we don't have an API yet, so we're kind of playing there in the middle.
Sure.
But that's the concept. Is the object itself, the creator facet, will be returned to the environment of the API, and you will have it. Yeah.
That's essentially the message they'll send there from
Yeah.
Yes.
Will the code be available somewhere that you typed on
The
the
REPL
It is.
here, yeah, I will make sure it is available at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And you will have the recording of this
Yeah.
workshop.
By the way, you actually have this. It's in, if you search afterwards in GitHub in the deploy contract deploy REPL commands, and you have all this flow. Okay.
Any more questions? Yes.
Another question. Thank you everyone for attending the workshop. So we have kind of basically a prize and reward for going to the workshop, which we really appreciate everyone taking the time doing. If you go to gateway.agoric.com, we walk through some of the directions. So basically, if you take a screenshot of the last page of basically running all the commands and your updated, your wallet, your purses on the side, it's a $200 reward. And then all the directions are on gateway.agoric.com and how to claim that.
Yeah, we also had this link in the very beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so as a closing thought, I mean, it's probably overwhelmingly a lot of information for 90 minutes, but believe me, like, we come from EVM background, and that's like a lot easier to jump into Agoric than it is to jump to almost anything else. So yeah, welcome. Go build something.
Yeah, what you just saw was kind of, it was trickier. I can imagine what it feels like to be on that side, but I also feel like it's good for you to try to immediately recognize all these terms, because in Agoric there are some terms that are different. For example, the amounts, you don't typically see them, and the sooner you get into contact with them, the better. And after that, it's like a breeze, honestly. So start building on Agoric.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Neil.